welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me on the phone is Jimmy Champ because we have 4 teams left. It is championship weekend, and there are lots of bets to be made, my friend. Thank you for joining me.
No place I'd rather be, brother. I cannot wait to talk about these games and maybe get into a little bit of NFL news at the end, man. Here we go.
Yeah, a lot of interesting hires have been made recently for some coaching jobs. So we'll talk about that, but all eyes are on Baltimore and San Francisco as the AFC and NFC championship games will be this weekend. They kick off Sunday at 3 o'clock in Baltimore, where the Baltimore Ravens are 3.5-point favorites over the Kansas City Chiefs. Plus 180 for the Chiefs, minus 220 for the Ravens. The over-under on this game sits at 44.5. I know Baltimore has looked like the best team in the league, Jimmy, but 3.5 feels like a lot of points to give Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game.
Yeah, I believed the Kansas City Chiefs were going to the Super Bowl at the start of the year. I don't really care what it's looked like for them to get here. I'm not going to change course now. I thought Baltimore was going to be really good, and Baltimore may be the better team. Lamar may be the MVP, but I do not believe he's the best quarterback on the field. If you're going to give me 3.5 with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and a defense and a running game, I'm going to take the Chiefs and the Chiefs' money line. Chiefs win this thing outright, I believe.
I actually agree with you.
Oh!
I think the Chiefs are winning this game.
Yes, sir.
I can't bet it because I already have so much money on the Chiefs, but I am going to sign up for one of the online betting sites that I have not signed up yet for and use some of my free bet money to hedge on the Baltimore Ravens. But I think Kansas City is going to win this game. And there are 2 main phases of this game, a third with special teams. But let's start with, what are you expecting to happen when the Baltimore Ravens have the football? How are they going to try to attack this really good Kansas City Chiefs defense, and how are the Chiefs going to try to contain what Baltimore is going to try to do?
Well, I think it'll kind of be on both sides of the ball. The Ravens' passing attack was nothing special last week, but their running game was phenomenal. I expect the Chiefs to try to make Baltimore one-dimensional to throw the football. They are going to do everything in their power to keep Baltimore out of second and third and short, try to get them into passing situations, probably get a spy on Lamar, try to keep him in the pocket. And, of course, it's a try with Lamar because he's having a phenomenal year. Mm-hmm. He's pretty much doing what he wants. But to them, the perfect game plan is the Baltimore run game gets stopped and Lamar has to drop back and throw the football 40 or 50 times. I think
yeah, if they're going to have to throw the ball 40 or 50
success.
times, that's how you win if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think Baltimore is going to throw the ball 40 times. I think they'll just call runs and try to keep pounding away. And if they have to shorten the game, then they shorten the game, maybe take a shot or two each set of downs or something like that. But I think this Kansas City defense is really good. They can cover. They're really good in the secondary. And I don't think there's going to be a ton of throwing lanes for Lamar. Steve Spagnuolo has actually contained Lamar fairly well in their previous meetings. They've played 4 or 5 times before. And this Chiefs defense is better than any of those other defenses they had. Chris Jones is playing phenomenal football. They have a middle linebacker named Nick Bolton who has been playing very well. Yep. And I know the Cleveland Browns don't think middle linebackers matter, but all 4 of these teams feature very good middle linebackers, with Baltimore with Roquan Smith, Kansas City with Bolton, who I just mentioned. San Francisco has Warner, and I forget who they have in Detroit because I can't remember his name. But they drafted somebody this last year. They overdrafted somebody, if I recall, because everybody said linebackers don't matter, and yet here we are with 4 teams that have people eaters as linebackers in the Final Four. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Kansas City's good enough defensively to kind of contain what Baltimore wants to do. I think Lamar's still going to eat a little bit. He's definitely going to get his rushing yards. But I think the Chiefs are going to blitz the shit out of him. I think they're going to bring pressure. I think they're going to bring a lot of pressure from all sorts of different areas. And what they're going to try to do is force Lamar to throw balls up for grabs. Because I think you can get him to do that if you can get enough pressure on him.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only time Lamar makes mistakes this year and Lamar has got antsy is when you can actually keep him in the pocket.
Yep.
When he cannot find that escape valve to run, that is when he'll make a mistake, throw an errant ball, things like that. And that's what Kansas City's going to try to do.
Yeah, they're going to try to get that pocket around him and then just close it in.
Yep. And I think if they're able to do that, then they're going to vastly slow down Baltimore's offense.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side of the ball, we saw Kansas City really be efficient last week offensively. They looked really good. Rice looked amazing. Kelsey looked like he turned back the clock to last year, not like how he's played this year. So maybe he was playing a little possum. If that's the case, then it shouldn't be much of a problem for them to figure out a way to move the ball down the field because they're getting a really nice run game from Pacheco. How do you expect Kansas City to do anything different from how they did last week, or are they going to have to make some adjustments based on what Baltimore is going to do?
I think they're going to expect Baltimore to attack just like they did against Houston. Mm-hmm. So I think to start, you may see a lot of like quick slants and screens and draws to start from Kansas City, just to see what exactly Baltimore's defense is how they're gonna come at them. Mm-hmm. Because right now, I'm not sure if the Kansas City run game or the pass game is the weakness. I'm not sure which one you try to take away. So I'm not sure if you really want to deal with Pacheco, or you say we don't think this Chiefs passing offense has really been that dynamic this year, and we can stop it. I don't think they can, but I think that may be the route they go because this Chiefs offense has seemed to feed off of Pacheco and chunk yardage runs. It seems to have really loosened up the offense when it happens, and they get more momentum. So I think it'll be the same. It's so crazy to say. I think you're going to try to force Mahomes to throw the ball as opposed to the run game, but I think that may be what they try to do. And just Baltimore, I think they'll try to be just as aggressive as they were against Houston. I just don't think it'll work because this is an experienced team.
I think you blitz Patrick Mahomes at your own risk.
He's
incredibly. He's just so good against the blitz. It's tough to make a habit of doing that. What Baltimore's going to try to do is what they've been doing for a long time now. They're going to run those zone rush schemes where they're going to bring 4 guys, but there's going to be 6 on the line of scrimmage, and you're going to have to figure out which 4 are coming and which 2 are dropping back. They're going to hope to create mismatches that way. In the previous meetings, Patrick Mahomes has absolutely destroyed the Baltimore Ravens. He's thrown for more than 300 yards in all those games. I like Mahomes' over in this game. He's sitting at 240.5. So that is a bet I like a lot. I also like both these quarterbacks. 65.5 for Lamar, 26.5 for Mahomes. I think these two defenses are great, and I think these two guys are going to have to make some plays with their legs in order to make this happen. And I also like Pacheco over 62.5 yards. He's going to get carries. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be off this roster after the offseason because they don't trust him. That's why he does not get the ball. They're just not going to do that bullshit they were doing with Hardman last week. They're just not at the goal line. Like that touchdown is going to be too important this week. That ball is going to go to Kelsey, or they're just going to hand it off to Pacheco and let him slam into the line.
I agree.
And I think that fumble has sort of skewed people's perception of what happened last week in Buffalo. Yeah. That game wasn't really all that close, and Josh Allen really shat the bed at the end there. They had opportunities to win that game. He had a throw, I forget exactly when it was on that drive, but he had somebody open in the end zone, and he threw it like 15 yards short. Yep. I mean, he just flubbed it.
That's just what happened. I mean, Diggs needs to catch that ball down the sideline, but it doesn't change the fact that Allen misses that throw into the end zone. But, yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think there's some great, like FanDuel, man. There's some you can get some great odds on, especially for this game in particular. You can get some great odds on both teams score a rushing touchdown.
Oh, I
Um,
like that one.
things like that. Like there are a lot of really, really juicy plays out there where if you, because I actually think there's going to be offense in this game. I think these two offenses are too good. I think the defenses are very good, but I think these offenses are going to score points.
Yeah,
And there
these
are a lot
quarterbacks are
of
playing at such a high level.
player and team props that are on the plus side of the bet that I think you can really look at to make some good smart bets on this one.
Can I throw one at you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rashee Rice over 59.5 yards.
Yeah, it's over for me.
What? It was 40. He only had 47 yards last week. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Miami game 130. Cincinnati game 127. Vegas 60. New England 91. Buffalo 72. Green Bay 64. Vegas 107. He's gone over that total in all but 2 of his last 8 games. And they're going to need him to catch passes. They're going to find ways to get the ball in his hands. They'll probably get him some, like you said, I think he's going to be the recipient of some of those short, quick passes, whether it's a drag, whether it's a screen, whether it's a slant. And he's going to probably get 3 or 4 catches early in this game in their first 2 drives just to try to get him going. So I think you already start out at like 25 to 30 yards for Rice.
Yep.
What do you think about Kelsey at 62.5? Do you think he's got another big game in him?
Yeah, I think this is when he shines. I mean,
it's tough to bet against him in the playoffs.
It's incredible. Like if you have time, go and look. It's incredible that Travis Kelce is the guy who is actually making a chase for some of Jerry Rice's postseason records.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Like it's really incredible. And I think all of the scheming, like, how do we want to put this? So during the year, the Chiefs did an incredible job of scheming guys wide open who tended to drop footballs.
Yeah.
If I could find a prop for this game that was 100% of Patrick Mahomes' passes go to Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, I would bet it. Like,
I don't know if it'll be quite that extreme, but I do think you're on the right track there.
Like, open or not, Kelsey's going to get his chance. And I feel like a game of this magnitude, if you give Kelsey the chances, he's proven he will succeed. Like, I would have, like, if somebody wanted to stay away from that, I could understand it. But you would never be able to talk me into taking the under on it.
Yeah. What about some of the Baltimore props? We have Lamar Jackson at over 210 yards, and you can even, I mentioned his rushing total is 65.5. Gus Edwards at 44.5. I just don't know that they're going to let Edwards run the ball. Like, I feel like they're really going to try to put the clamps on there. That passing number looks enticing at 210. Do you think that's a bit of a red herring?
No, I think Kansas City is going to get up a little bit in this game, so I think Baltimore is going to have to push the ball downfield. So I like both of those. I like the over on the rushing and the passing. I think I probably like Zay Flowers for a touchdown. I'm not sure. I know Mark Andrews is coming back. I don't know how healthy he's going to be. So I'm probably going to stay away from Andrews, but I might still like the Isaiah Likely stuff that I've found so far.
And that was something I was thinking about. Likely's played so well that you wonder if bringing Andrews in sort of mucks up the works a little bit. We've seen that in basketball where a big name guy goes down and he's maybe getting a little older. Somebody younger comes in that watched him play for a while is like, wow, that guy's pretty good too.
Yep.
So we'll see if there's something like that. Andrews is plus 225 to score a touchdown. You can get Likely at plus 320. The names that you would expect are at the top of the list. Lamar's minus 125, Kelsey's minus 105, Edwards is plus 100, Pacheco's plus 115. If all 4 of those guys score, nobody would be surprised.
Yeah.
You mentioned Zay Flowers. His
Yep.
over-under only sits at 42.5. Mark
Yep.
Andrews at 34.5, likely 21.5. This is a game where I think they're going to have to try and find something with Bateman and Beckman. So last week, Odell was a non-factor, 1 catch, 12 yards. Bateman did get up to 39, which was more than his over-under. So it looks like Bateman's the guy they're going to look for as the third banana in terms of receiver targets. So I like him better than Odell, and I actually like him better than the Zay Flowers bet. I think it's going to be tough sledding for Zay Flowers. I think he's going to get the Diggs treatment from last week, and they're really going to try to put the clamps on him.
Yeah, that's.
Well, that's one game in the books, Jimmy.
Yeah.
The next game features the team that a lot of people thought would be here and a team a lot of people were maybe skeptical would be here, but they are here nonetheless. The San Francisco 49ers are hosting, as you call them, the fraudulent Detroit Lions. The Niners are 7-point favorites, minus 365 for their money line. Lions are plus 285. Over-under sits at 52. Jimmy, you've called them frauds all year. Are you sticking with it?
Yeah, I'm sticking with it. I mean, you could probably, if you wanted to argue that Baker is better than Brock Purdy, I might be able to listen to that. But at this point, I'll take McCaffrey, Samuel, and Ayuk and Kittle over Godwin and Evans, and Tampa just threw for 400 yards. Tampa just threw for 400 yards.
Detroit's been giving up 300-yard passing days to just about everybody. They've just been handing them out left and right.
Brock Purdy's going to look like Joe Montana in this football game.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a game where I think San Francisco's just going to kick the shit out of Detroit. I don't think Detroit's got enough on the defensive end because what we saw last week, the Ringer had a really great write-up on how Detroit attacked Tampa. And they found something in their protections where they knew they could get them to slide either right or left. And then, if you're sliding left, your right tackle is moving to the left, and they would then blitz into that space where that tackle would have been had he not slid over. And they were able to get free runners on about a third of the pass plays that Baker dropped back on. So I know everybody's giving Baker shit for that last pick, but if he takes a sack there, the game's over anyway. So I don't know what we're talking about. The line couldn't hold up. Detroit got pressure. They made the play. Tampa didn't. That's where we are. We know Baker needs help to make plays like that, and he didn't get it on that play, and he didn't. I don't think Detroit's going to be as successful getting free runners against the San Francisco team, and I think even if they are, Purdy has shown over and over again he'll stand in there, take a hit, and throw it downfield and let his guys make plays.
Yes, and I think I don't know if Detroit will just say, this is our blueprint, because Kyle Shanahan also read that piece from the Ringer, and Kyle Shanahan has watched all that tape and has gone, ooh, if they do that, I can do this right behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think for me, with Detroit, it's just a given. They're going to try to pressure Brock Purdy, and they'll probably get home some. But they're going to try to pressure, and they're going to get lit up in the pass game. That's just what's happened, and they've been able to get wins.
Yeah.
I don't think
no rain in the forecast for Sunday, so I don't think we have any worries for Brock Purdy.
I just don't think they're going to be able to slow down San Francisco's offense. And I think on the other side of the ball, you're going to see, and this is a great moment for Dan Campbell, for Ben Johnson, and for Jared Goff, because I think San Francisco is so good at least attempting, and usually they succeed, but attempting to take you out of your A game. What is it you do well? We take it away. If you can beat us with your B game, go right ahead. Yeah. There have been very few teams on the year that said, no, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it against you. We're going to succeed. I don't think Detroit is good enough to do that, and I don't believe they have a B game. I believe their B game is going to be chuck and duck from Jared Goff, and he's going to look like the Jared Goff that the Rams knew they had to get rid of to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think 49ers are going to be able to get home on Goff enough to get him antsy. And they're going to have to, I think 49ers are going to be able to put points on the board pretty consistently.
Yep.
And if Detroit is going to stumble at any point, that offense, I know they have runs where they go like 2-3 yeah. That Detroit offense has runs where they put up points on 2-3 possessions in a row. And that is how they were able to kind of weather what happened with Tampa, because Tampa was the better team on Sunday for a big chunk of that game. And then
Yes, I
Detroit
agree.
just dialed it up on offense, and it was kind of reminiscent of what we've seen Kansas City do in the past, where they put so much pressure on you by just scoring touchdowns on 2-3 drives in a row. And it's like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened?
Yep.
I have a parlay for you. Let me
Let
know
me
what you
have it.
think. Brock Purdy, more than 1.5 touchdowns, over 279.5 yards. Jared Goff to throw an interception, and Purdy with over 31.5. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Oh, this is what I wanted. And Purdy longest pass completion over 40.5 yards plus 500.
Yeah, that is worth a bet. That all seems actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah, because I think San Francisco is going to have an easy time moving the ball, and I really think we're going to have to deal with 2 full weeks of Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes, who's the better quarterback nonsense. Like, we haven't already done this with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy, how do we keep talking about Brock Purdy like we didn't just do this with Jimmy Garoppolo?
I don't know. It's weird because it's like
It was just a year. Hell, it was last year when Garoppolo came out and played well for a couple of games.
it was like they gave Kyle Shanahan so much praise early that now we can't give Kyle Shanahan praise anymore. Like I don't know. It's weird because, and I don't mean to slight Brock Purdy. I don't like. I'm not like. There is absolutely something to being a game manager, being a high level game manager, being a guy who can make most of the throws most of the time and not make the mistake to hurt your team. There are a lot of guys that can't do that. Brock Purdy has shown most of the time he can. Sometimes he looks like a train wreck, but it's also been shown that any quarterback willing to do what the scheme says can succeed in the scheme that Kyle Shanahan puts out there.
Yeah.
So kudos to Kyle Shanahan. Like it's just, but yeah,
Yeah, and get ready for the Kirk Cousins to San Francisco if Purdy looks bad in this game and they lose. Like, that's going to happen.
yeah,
People
yeah,
are already talking about it. Like, that's the guy Shanahan's always talked about wanting. He had him for a little while in Washington, and if he
yeah.
can get him now, that would be a dream come true for him, I would assume.
It would be an interesting pairing.
Yeah.
Because
And
but I don't know though. I think it would actually be bad for Kirk Cousins because I'm going to stand behind. I still believe Kirk Cousins is an above average quarterback in the NFL who just doesn't have that gene that lets him win in big games.
yeah, but with
It's just,
all those weapons in San Francisco, I don't know if he'd need it.
but that's true. But I also think because of what Kirk Cousins is able to do, there may be times he wouldn't want to play within the scheme.
Oh, that's possible.
Where he might go, no, this guy can't cover Debo. Let's just keep throwing him the ball. Let's just do that. So
I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
kind of a moot point
I don't
because
know.
I think San Francisco rolls this weekend. I think
Yeah,
they win this game pretty easily.
I don't think this game's going to be particularly close. I'm sure Detroit will keep fighting and clawing. I think the overhits, but I'm not nervous of the 7.5 at all. It would probably have to move to like 9 before I got scared.
So the 49ers minus 8.5 is plus 100. Minus 9.5 is plus 108.
Yep.
If you believe, I've kind of been throwing something at this regularly this season, and it's kind of been a wash. But San Francisco has blown out some teams. Minus 13.5 is plus 165 for the 49ers. That gives you 2 touchdowns. It just doesn't feel like enough odds. Like, even if we get up to 20.5, we're only at plus 355. Like, I don't know. I'd like to see better odds for a blowout of that magnitude with an offense as good as the Lions is. But something tells me that this is going to be like that Baltimore game where San Francisco just really shuts down the Lions and, we see something like 35-14, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, but if you're taking a betting strategy this weekend of I'm gonna make a lot of microtransactions, a lot of small bets to hit, I'd be okay with the 13.5.
Yeah.
I think those are okay odds if you're gonna say, I'm gonna do a bunch of $5-10 bets. $5 and $10 bets across the board and see where I can hit on spots where I think are really good places. And I like that 13.5. I think that's a good number. I'd be okay with that because I agree with you. I don't think Detroit is just good enough on defense to slow down this offense.
No, no, not at all. Christian McCaffrey over 86.5 rushing yards. Is that something he hits, or do you think they're going to focus more on passing with him as a receiver?
I would not take that because I don't see why you would try to run the ball.
Yeah, McCaffrey's over under 35.5 for a receiver. Debo 45.5. Those both look pretty attractive because I think they're going to try to get the ball in both of their hands.
Yep, I agree. I like touchdown scorers for both of them as well.
Yeah. On the Detroit side, Sam Laporte has been eating pretty much. His over-under sits at 47.5. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 84.5. Again, I would expect both of those to hit over because I think Detroit's going to be throwing a lot in the second half.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that.
I don't know if they score, but you can get the odds on McCaffrey to score a touchdown are ridiculous. On Caesars, you're getting him at minus 550, but if you go over to DraftKings, you can get him at minus 350. So the touchdown scorer thing is definitely something to shop around. Get your best odds because the difference between minus 550 and minus 350 is extraordinary, especially if you are going to start putting some of these guys in parlays together.
Yep, absolutely.
So we're looking Kansas City, San Francisco, which is a Super Bowl we thought we were probably going to get last year before San Francisco ran out of quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I like it. I guess, as Sully has pointed out, to me, it's a bias thing. I can clearly see paths where Baltimore beats Kansas City. With the exception of 3 injuries, I cannot see a path where Detroit beats San Francisco.
Yeah, something fluky would have to happen.
It would have to be fluky. Probably a low-scoring, fluky game, I guess.
Yes.
But I just don't really see it happen. But I think this is what we want. I think Kansas City still, I think Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think San Francisco is probably the best team in the NFL. So that's what you want for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I also think, I know I said I'm going to put some hedge money on Baltimore. I think the reason you're getting Kansas City at such good odds is because the public's sick of them.
Yeah.
And I get it. They're kind of the new Patriots. A lot of people don't like Taylor Swift, even though a bunch of the people that bitch about Taylor Swift being on camera didn't seem to have any problems with Jason Kelce being on camera. So
no, that's kind of weird.
One of them was just cheering for her boyfriend while the other one was seeking attention by taking his shirt off and chugging beers, which, by the way, was just awesome. And I dig both things, but everybody's mad at the girl who's cheering her boyfriend on, any wife or any other girlfriend. And the guy chugging beers is the one everybody's celebrating. It's really indicative of how odd our country is at a lot of times.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I think you kind of started to touch on it there, right? Because just because the general consensus is sick of it doesn't mean it's going away.
Nope.
I think when Kansas City wins this game, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, dude, I could have had Kansas City's money line.
Yeah. I could have Kansas City 3.5.
Yeah, or oh man, why did I take
At plus
Baltimore?
at even money at plus 100.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely silly.
I mean,
And,
they're begging people to bet it, and this number at 3.5, like, I mean, if this game was decided by a field goal, would anybody be surprised?
nope,
And
and
if
then
it's
you
decided
cover.
by a field, yeah, either way, if you bet on Kansas City and it's a field goal game, either way you win. Everybody thinks Baltimore is going to blow them out. Like nobody thinks Kansas City is going to blow Baltimore out.
No, no, and I don't think I think they will either. I just
No, I
think
think this is
down the
a
stretch play.
I think this is a close game.
Yeah, I just don't like I understand what Baltimore has done to a lot of good teams in like the last 2 months, but I don't know how you look at a team that everyone would generally say across the board has underachieved, but they're in the AFC Championship game, coached by Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes, and say that team's going to get blown out with that
Yeah.
defense.
It just
Like
feels
I don't
like
understand.
it's going to be another thing like last week to this week.
Yeah,
Monday's going to come around and everybody's going to be like, "What the fuck were we thinking not betting on Patrick Mahomes?"
yeah. No, I
Like,
totally agree.
guys, is just good.
Yep.
That's not new. We do have some new coaches in the league
Yeah.
now. Some big name hires, some hires that maybe have Browns fans a little worried. In no particular order, Jared Mayo's in New England. No real big surprise there. That team's probably in rebuild mode. Do you think Mac Jones comes back? You think he's the starter there next year?
No. I mean, I don't.
for
How?
for Jared's sake, I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, how could he be? How could you, with the performances you saw? How could he be? Like they've got to be in the quarterback market, unless you are in rebuild mode and you feel like let's do everything else and then get the quarterback. Then you just bring McCorkle back and let him
Throw a
run
bunch of
around.
interceptions and keep your draft
Yeah,
stock high.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I can buy it.
like that's the only option I see where he comes back.
Antonio Pierce is staying in Las Vegas, and I think that's a good move. He seems like he's a real leader, and guys want to play for him.
Yep. Like we said, we've said, kudos to a team for actually hiring the guy the players want to play for.
It's a crazy idea. It just might work.
It's nuts.
In Tennessee, Mike Vrabel is out, and Brian Callahan is in. This one has caused some concern in the Cleveland area that his dad, Bill Callahan, may be going down there, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case anymore. That talk seemed to start just because of the family relationship there, but there's a lot of reasons why Bill would want to stay here in Cleveland. I know he likes it here. He's done some good work. He's appreciated here, but there's also the fact that from what I understand, Brian has been pretty reserved in what jobs he's going to take, and I have a feeling that maybe he wants to get out of his dad's shadow and be his own man for a little while. So I think that I don't think Cleveland has a lot to worry about there, to be honest.
Oh, Cleveland's got a lot to be worried about, but we do get to keep Bill Callahan as the offensive
Yes,
line.
in this case, yeah, because if they lost Bill Callahan, that would be catastrophic.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I think that would be the difference between him being mediocre the next few seasons and being mediocre to bad the next few seasons.
Yeah, no, I agree. He does an incredible job. But, I mean, you can just see that in the way that the backups come in and are at least usually serviceable.
Yeah. The latest hiring is Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the LA Rams, is going to take over in Atlanta as things with Bill Belichick fell through. What do you think about this hire, Jimmy?
I love it. I think Raheem deserved another shot. I think he's done the right things, said the right things. Players do tend to like him, so I love it. I think he'll be good. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they get as a quarterback and who they get as an offensive coordinator, because that should be a very attractive job with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Algier, those guys. A lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and there's going to be some quarterbacks out there that you can make a run at that I think will work.
Yep.
The Carolina Panthers are going with Dave Canales to see if he can continue his run of restoring quarterbacks. He did it for Geno Smith in Seattle last year. He did it for Baker Mayfield this year, and we'll see what he can do for Bryce Young next year, Jimmy. What are your expectations for him in Carolina?
Yeah, I mean that had to be the Baker thing this year had to be a big part of it. I just think that had to be a big part of
Yeah,
it.
well, he's done it with two quarterbacks now, and
Like
both of them were pushing the ball down the field. So it's not like they were just dinking and dunking like
yeah,
what we
no,
saw Russell Wilson
yeah,
and Mac Jones be able to do. It's like, congratulations, but as soon as they open it up, turnovers start happening. That didn't
yep,
happen with Geno last year. It happened with him a little bit this year. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens there, especially, I mean, he's taking over for noted quarterback whisperer Frank Reich. So, I mean, what a feather in his cap if he would be able to succeed where Frank Reich has failed, as Frank Reich has failed so many times.
yeah. It would be hard to believe that somebody could do a better job than Frank Reich.
Man, there's probably no two people that slander Frank Reich as much as we do, and we're right about him. I will
That's
just
the thing,
continue
yeah.
to say we're right about Reich. He might be the nicest guy in the world, but he's a shitty head coach.
Sorry, shitty head coach. I don't know what to tell you. You should. You suck. Sorry, it's what it is. I do wonder for Canellis what kind of trepidation you have taking that job with the owner kind of getting a little crazy right now. So that had to be a little worried. But Carolina's defense was obviously they played in a down division, but Carolina's defense wasn't horrible this year. They were actually pretty good. They're missing some pieces on offense.
They were all right defensively, but Bryce Young looked like he can't play quarterback.
Oh, yes, he looked
And
like
that's a
he is
problem.
not a guy.
Yeah, not only is he too small, he looks like he's scared to push the ball downfield. He looks like
Yep.
he's always got his head on a swivel. So they got a lot of work to do down there, and they got an owner that is maybe a mess. This could very quickly turn into like a Rod Chazinski, Mike Patton situation.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean that's just where we're at with their
wants
owner.
that.
That's just where they are with their owner, where he might
you're
not
not wrong.
do a bad job, but because of the limitations of that roster, they may only win 4 or 5 games, and he ends up getting fired. And that revolving door is now spinning around like we've seen it here in Cleveland, and it sucks. I'm just glad I'm not Carolina.
Yeah, for sure.
And not the last head coach fired, but the last one we'll mention is after many, many years, Jim Harbaugh is finally returning to the NFL. He will coach the Los Angeles Chargers. This is the big splash, Jimmy. Is it going to be enough to turn this Chargers team around that was super disappointing this year?
Well, one thing, I mean, they have to figure out their wide receiver room because they've got a mess. They've got injuries. What do you do with Keenan Allen? Like, they've got a lot going on there. I would just like to see this Chargers roster healthy once. And maybe Harbaugh's got some ways to help that. Because I would like to see how this team competes when they're mostly healthy.
Well, these guys haven't been able to be healthy the last 3 years, so why are they going to be healthier now that they're 3 years older?
I don't know what crazy man Brandon Staley had them doing in practice. Like, the guy was a lunatic. Who knows?
Well,
what
Mike Williams is made out of glass. Keenan Allen's off and on the field. When he's on the field, he's great.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack was mad this year. Eckler's a free agent. I know he's good, but it doesn't ever feel like he's quite as good as he should be, which is the same thing I could say about Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
He's a really good quarterback,
exactly.
but I haven't seen anything
is he a really
from
good
him.
quarterback?
Yeah, he's got as many playoff wins as we do.
Yeah.
And at
that's
some
not a lot.
point, and at some point you can't be talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in the league if you haven't even won a playoff game.
Yep.
How surprised are you that it looks like we're going to get through this whole hiring cycle and Belichick, Carroll, and Mike Vrabel, none of them will have a job. And I think those 3 are probably 3 of the 10 best coaches right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vrabel's going to sit at home for a year and see if Ryan Day gets fired. Like, that's fully what I believe. That's fully what I believe is going to happen with Vrabel. And it appears the Belichick thing, and I don't blame organizations for this at all. The problem with Belichick is he wants to be the GM, and Belichick sucks as the GM.
Yeah, we've now reached the point where Bill Belichick, the GM, is fucking over Bill Belichick, the coach.
Yeah.
Because Bill Belichick,
100%.
the coach, is still really good.
Like, because they said, like, I mean, the reports are that the Atlanta thing never even got deep, ever got close because Belichick wanted to be part of the quarterback evaluation and choosing process and basically wanted to be the GM.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you look at New England post Brady and go, that's the guy I want choosing my quarterback.
Yeah. Totally agree.
So,
and
I have said I'm sure in the next couple of years, he's going to, even if he's got to find a GM he really respects, he's going to probably give up the GM part of it just to be a head coach to chase a record that I would chase too. Like, I can't blame him for it. But I still wish in the meantime he would call one of these head coaches and be like, let me coach the defense.
Well, Seattle and Washington are still out there.
Yeah.
There was talk about him going to Washington before. I don't know why anybody would want to coach Washington, but I also don't know why anybody would want to coach Carolina. I mean, I know they're one of 32, but there's problems with those teams. Even Seattle has some problems. I think there's more talent there than in Washington, but you still same problem with both of those places. You got to figure out what's going on with quarterback.
Yeah, and I like the Washington thing. The fact that I don't get the Bieniemy situation. It just felt like you brought him here to take over, but now that's not what's going to happen. So I don't know.
Yeah, and he made that offense look competent. I mean, Sam Howell wasn't good, but he looked like he was a viable NFL quarterback, even though we know he's not.
Yeah, I mean, there were, he had multiple weeks of 300 yards and multiple touchdowns, and I don't think he's that good. So,
is there any universe where any of the four teams that are left are looking for a new head coach after this season? I mean, Baltimore's not going to move on from Harbaugh. I could go on a huge fucking rant about what's his face from NBC. Florio. Mike Florio has been talking about Andy Reid retiring, and it's such a wag the dog moment where he's just, I'm just reading the tea leaves. It's like, no, you're just making shit up out of whole cloth.
Yes.
Like, that's what's going on because there's nothing going on, and you're just trying to cause drama so you can get clicks. And I don't think it's very cool. I don't like that he does it, and that's just sort of where we are in the sports journalism aspect is we know that Shams and Woj have been exposed as NBA reporters where they will report things that help organizations or help certain players. Like, they are not true arbiters of information. So be careful about some of these people. And then, I mean, it's not like San Francisco or Detroit's going to move on from their coach, win or lose.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like, we've had we've had sideline reporters, popular, successful ones this year say, I just make shit up on the sideline.
Yep. Well, I couldn't talk to the coach, so I just keep it vague. It's like, no, you're lying. Like, if you couldn't talk to the coach, just say, coach went right by and he just looked all business.
Yeah, but I don't understand, I don't understand how you look at what's going on in Kansas City. Like, you could say the Patrick Mahomes era, this has been the most down year the offense has been, but the defense has been really good. You could say the Chiefs have underperformed and they're in the AFC Championship game. Like, Andy Reid seems so comfortable right now, and not in a bad way. Like, I don't know why you would even put that out there because I don't think there's anything pointing towards Andy Reid. Maybe if you win a Super Bowl, but I don't even think then. Like, why would you not keep running with this until it's done?
Yeah, I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to keep coaching until I think he's got his eyes set on Don Shula.
Yeah, that's fair too.
I guess a few more notes. The Browns hired a running backs coach. They hired old Deuce Staley from that fantastic United Way commercial where he got Chrysanthemum.
Yep.
But she got Cat. Classic. He was a really good running back for the Eagles. He was one of those first, he was called a third down back, but the way Andy Reid used him, he was more of a 3-down back. He could run, he could catch. Yeah. He's, sort of not the prototype, but sort of like a beta test version of that running back.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that moves the needle or not. What are your thoughts there, Jimmy?
It's weird to me because it doesn't seem like, now obviously I would assume Deuce Staley was the way you just described him is perfect, and he was very good at his craft. And I'm not saying like that's all he can coach, but the way Deuce Staley played running back to me is very, very different than how Nick Chubb plays running back.
Yeah. But that may be they may be looking to get Nick Chubb. I mean, they were going to try to get Nick Chubb more involved in the passing attack. They didn't really get a chance to see that to fruition. So he would be a guy you bring in to help Nick work on his hands, make those more reliable. Even though I still contend I haven't seen anything out of Nick Chubb that makes me think he's deficient when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield. He's been pretty fucking good at it if you give him opportunities.
Quarterbacks just got to throw it to him sometimes.
Yeah, totally agree. Did you catch any?
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with Deuce. I still don't. I'm still not behind the 3 coaching firings or whatever you want to call them, but
yeah, I still don't know what was going on there. And now they're interviewing guys. They're interviewing Ken Dorsey for the offensive coordinator position. Like, come on. And then they also interviewed just out of the Chargers. And then he was in Dallas. Totally blanking.
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, they're interviewing Kelly Moore. Like, those guys aren't coming here. They're going to want to call plays.
Yep. And it's going to be a handcuff.
And I know that's the talk right now is Stefanski going to give up play calling? Until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin Stefanski has made it perfectly clear that he's going to call plays. So I don't even really know why they're going to hire an offensive coordinator. I don't know why waste it.
Well, I mean, to me, it just comes down to if Stefanski's not calling plays, then what does he do? The whole reason you brought him here was because of his offense and because you liked how he called the game. So even though I'm not a fan of Stefanski calling plays and being the head coach, I don't know how you're going to change that now. Like, I don't see how that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you hear Andrew Berry's press conference, or did you catch any of the highlights?
Oh, there were highlights?
Well, I mean, I was pretty jaw-dropped when he said he thought of this as a 10-year timeline. I thought this was a win-now move. I didn't know this was a decade-long process. I mean, it's a 10-year timeline, Jimmy. This team went 1-31 in the last, 5 years ago. Like, that wasn't that long ago. And now he's saying 10 years.
I was so confused. I think and we've talked about this, and it's probably why we'll never end up on 92-3. They'll never want the no broken legs team.
They can't handle the truth.
The thing that blew my mind was my local sports media people listened to the press conference with me on 92.3. We listened to it at the same time. And then they told me how great of a press conference it was. What do you mean a 10-year plan?
Yeah, everybody's just giving him a pass on that. It's absolutely crazy.
That's insane. If it's a 10-year plan, you're not going to get to see the end of it.
No, it's the 5-year plan has been replaced with a 10-year plan, Jimmy. The 5-year plan that never made it out of year one is now a 10-year plan that has yet to make it out of year one. God, the room is on fire, Jimmy, and everybody thinks it's fine.
The things that made Deshaun Watson unique and good 3 or 4 years ago, he already can't really do.
Yeah, and he's only in the moments where he's looked good. It's either been against really bad defenses or it's only been for quick bursts where they're sort of just F it and letting it fly. And you can maybe ride that momentum for a little while, but as Joe Flacco showed, that bill comes due at some point, man.
Yep.
And I know That was one of the funnier parts was Barry saying, we'd love to have Joe back, but, it's about dollars and cents and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, dude, he's not coming back. Like, you're not having him on this roster with Deshaun Watson because everybody saw what he did. And it's going to be bad enough if this team starts out and Watson isn't very good the first couple of games. Everybody's going to be like, why didn't we just bring back Flacco? That's what everybody's going to be saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and you certainly couldn't have him on the sideline.
No. And
It's
now
just
you're
not a
just going to,
possibility.
and now it's just going to constantly be, should they have brought in Flacco? Why didn't they keep Flacco? Flacco. We're talking about Joe Flacco like he didn't throw 2 back-breaking interceptions in a game that was still relatively close while you were driving down the field. I still don't understand it, Jimmy.
It's perfectly fine. Joe Flacco and Jacoby Brissett are allowed to throw game-changing interceptions. Baker Mayfield not.
It's incredible how different people respond to these guys. It's pretty crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah. This team also has a lot of free agents.
Whew.
A lot of free agents, and one of the more important ones is on the defensive line, Zadarius Smith. Do you think they're going to bring him back?
I think you have to try.
I mean, they're not going to think Okonkwo and I forget the other pass rusher they have. Like, that's not going to be enough to pair with Garrett.
No.
I think that can't be the plan. I mean, I already know what the plan is next year for linebacker because Anthony Walker is going to be gone, and they're going to give that job to Taki, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely, because he's great.
He's going to be the middle linebacker, and they're going to talk about how many tackles he made, and all we're going to do is talk about, how many tackles he made 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage after a running back got a ton of yards.
Yep, coming at you.
Oh, my God. They're going to be worse at linebacker next year than they are this year.
That's scary, man.
And they're not good enough at receiver.
Receiver's a problem.
In the age of all these great wide receivers, why can't this team find one? How do they keep drafting the guy who's not good?
I have no idea.
I mean, you can't tell me David Bell's anything more than a replacement player. Like, he's your 4th or 5th wide receiver, and if you're splitting hairs over your 4th and 5th wide receiver, then you're not good enough at your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, it sure looks like at least after 1 year, we were right about Eli Moore not being a needle mover. So
he's a difference maker, man. We're gonna use him. We're gonna line him up all over the place. He's gonna be everywhere. He's gonna do everything. You know what that sounds like? He sounds like Percy Harvin.
Yeah. Oh, damn.
Everybody loves the idea of this guy because they spend so much time looking at him on tape, and they see him in the OTAs and in training camp when they're all wearing shorts and T-shirts, and he's so fast and he's so quick. And look at all these places we can play him, and then you put pads on him, and he's not as fast. And he's not that good of a route runner. And he's not special. He's just a guy. And that's why the Jets let him go. And that's why the Browns are probably going to let him go after this year, because he's just a guy.
And they need more than just a guy.
Yeah, especially with Cooper getting older. He had some injuries this year, even at the end of the season, even though he played through them. But Cooper's a guy who's had some injury problems here or there. So if they're going to have to do something with his contract, because he's getting paid a huge amount of money, so they're going to have to figure out some way to restructure his deal to push some of that money down the road. It's all the things we talked about before, man. They've got a lot of dead cap money. It's going to keep rolling over year after year because they keep kicking the cap can down the road, which keeps putting them in that position like the New Orleans Saints, where you're just good enough to make a few moves, but you're not good enough to make enough moves to really compete.
Yep.
At least for Super Bowls. And in terms of the division, Joe Burrow's coming back next year, man. Cincinnati's going to win 11 or 12 games if he's healthy all year. Baltimore's not going anywhere. And God forbid the fucking Pittsburgh Steelers realize their problem is at quarterback and they go get somebody. Like, if they go get Baker Mayfield, that's a problem.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry, though. It's a 10-year plan. It's fine. It's fine.
I I guess that's where do you think Baker winds up? I think Tampa losing the OC maybe makes it more difficult for him to come back. Maybe if Mike Evans winds up somewhere else, he decides to go somewhere else. I can't imagine he'd want to stay there if Mike Evans is somewhere. If Mike Evans is gone.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. I mean, it seems like he really found a niche with pushing footballs down the field to good wide receivers. I don't know, maybe Oakland, Las Vegas, if you will. Maybe the Raiders.
Well, I don't think he's going to be in Oakland, but I could definitely see him with the Raiders.
Maybe
I can't
the Raiders.
imagine O'Connell, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
I
don't
can't
think
imagine he's going to be starting there.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe the Raiders. I mean, Pittsburgh has to be an option, and
that's scary with that receiver talent, man.
Depending on who you get as offensive coordinator, Atlanta's got to be a possibility as well.
I still like Justin Fields down in Atlanta. That's who I'd go for, but I do like the idea of Baker there being able to push the ball to Pitts and Drake London while handing it off and doing some screen stuff. I think that would work really well. Yeah, I would think that's a good way to go. Also got Russell Wilson out there. Who knows where he winds up? Do you think it's possible he may not have a job?
I don't know. Just contractually, I don't know how much dead money they're really willing to eat.
It's the same amount this year as if they cut him next year. So they're going to cut him this year. I mean, they already said that.
It's still a hell of a number, though. I mean, they can say it, but when they actually look at it, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. With Russell,
it'll start with Kirk Cousins because he's going to be at the top of of everybody's board, and then it'll fall from there. I guess we'll see. Neither one of us thinks San Francisco's losing, so they're not going to be in the market. None of the other teams are going to be in the market that are alive. Washington probably needs a quarterback. Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Yep.
Tampa's going to need a quarterback, whether they bring back Baker or go with somebody else. Seattle's kind of stuck with Geno for another year, so that's just sort of where they're at. Pittsburgh is kind of in flux. I don't know how you run it back with Kenny Smith. I don't know how you run it back with Kenny Pickett. The Eagles are good with Hurts. The Jets got Rodgers. The Giants have to go with Daniel Jones next year, so good luck to y'all. Apparently, from what I saw on Derek Carr's contract, like the Saints are basically stuck with him for another year.
Yep.
We just said we don't know what happens with Mac Jones in New England. I can guarantee you it's not going to be Bailey Zappi.
Yeah.
Minnesota has to figure out what's going on with Kirk Cousins. Miami's good with Tua. The Rams are good with Stafford, although you think there's any chance Stafford retires?
Yes.
Wow, that would be a huge opening. Be interesting to see if he goes, if Aaron Donald and Sean McVay also retire. Although I feel like if that was something that was going to happen, at least in terms of McVay going, that would have already happened.
You would think, because it feels like McVay is enough of a company man that he wouldn't want to.
Yeah, he wouldn't fuck them.
Short them. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he would do that. So
yeah, the LA Chargers, they're good with Herbert. The Raiders, we talked about, probably need an upgrade from O'Connell. The Chiefs, I think they're okay.
Think so.
Jacksonville has Trevor Lawrence. I think if you're the Jaguars, you just run it back next year, try and add some pieces, and just go, look, we had some bad injury luck. We'll do better next year.
Yep. Yeah.
The Colts took Richardson last year. They'll probably bring back Gardner Minshew just to keep that train going, just because Richardson probably not going to stay healthy, at least for the whole season. Texans, I think they look good with C.J. Stroud.
They're pretty happy.
Green Bay fucking did it again. Apparently Jordan Love's going to be a long-term starter. The Lions love Jared Goff. We'll see what happens with the Broncos. I mean, I can't imagine Dallas moves off of Dak after the season he just put up.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, Cleveland's going to be stuck with Watson for at least another 2 years. The Bengals will get Burrow back. We expect Justin Fields to be let go, not let go, but he'll be traded, and the Bears will wind up with Caleb Williams. But either way, the Bears are set at quarterback for, at least in terms of they have a plan.
Yep.
The Panthers are going to give it a go with Bryce Young. The Bills got Josh Allen. The Ravens, I think, are okay with Lamar.
Yeah.
The Falcons will be looking for somebody new. And the Arizona Cardinals are the last team. They have Kyler Murray, who's probably the most interesting situation on this list. I think they just have to run it back with him next year.
Yeah, they pretty much said that he's still their guy. I don't get it, but hey,
well, he's still their guy because all of those guys that they fired last year gave him a bunch of money and made him the guy.
That is true. That part's true.
Yeah. Well, that's it, man. We talked a little more NFL news than I was expecting, but it was good. We got through some stuff. It's the championship weekend, so I don't know if we'll do a podcast next week. We probably will. We'll probably do something. Yeah. The big Super Bowl podcast we will do 2 weeks. We'll record 2 weeks from tonight, which it's Friday. Yep. So we'll record that the Friday before the Super Bowl and have that out for you Saturday morning. So keep your eyes open for that one. We'll do all the props. We'll do a ton of shit. We'll do some of the fun props. Gatorade color. Jimmy, I think, is two out of the last 3 years on the Gatorade, man.
Yeah,
Is that where you're at with that?
Yes, sir.
That's impressive because those are like plus 800 odds.
yeah, it's great to be up before the right then, like right there. It's like, oh yeah, it's fine.
One more
color.
Just one more. What do you think about the NFL conspiracy with the logo colors? That's the right answer in my opinion. Just
people are crazy. People are just crazy.
I think it's a way for, like, my conspiracy theory with this is that it's a conspiracy, but it's not the conspiracy people think. They did it 2 years in a row so that they can get a bunch of money on Baltimore. So when Kansas City wins, they don't get taken to the cleaners.
Well, they would be sly like a fox. So that
I'm just saying, if we're gonna go with conspiracy theories, let's go all out, man.
Yeah, let's get it right if we're gonna do
layers within layers, and go super deep.
And then I did love that. Then you saw the Canadian news station that ran with it. Like, did you see that?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
So they were talking about the halftime show, like it was on their ticker.
Yeah.
So they went ahead and put Ravens 49ers Super Bowl. Like, I thought it was incredible. Like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Let's lean into it.
I love it. Well, I hope these games this weekend are half as much fun as this pod was to record.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the playoff, although our Browns were on the wrong side of one of them, the playoff games have all been pretty entertaining so far. Like, they've been pretty intense, pretty good games. So hopefully one more weekend of it. And I know you've got a ton of future bets riding on this Chiefs team making it back to the Super Bowl. So hopefully that'll come through for you.
Yeah, I hope so. If the Chiefs want to play San Francisco, that would be ideal.
That would be ideal. That would be ideal for the no broken legs future bet.
All right, Jimmy. Well, thank you for joining me to run all this down. It's going to be a fun weekend, man.
Yes, sir, man. No place I'd rather be, brother.
And I want to thank all of you for listening. Please drop us a like or a subscribe so that you can keep up to date on all our podcasts. Once we get past the Super Bowl, maybe we'll do an NBA pod. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll see what Brandon's up to. Get you some insight on how to bet the NBA. But until then, enjoy the NFL playoffs. We got a week and then a week off and then the Super Bowl. A lot of betting to be done over these next couple of weeks. So get yourself into position, study it up, listen to our podcast so you know what bets to make. For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore. Thank you for listening to No Broken Legs.